You guys all know that age old question. If a phone rings in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it actually ring? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you right now in today's episode of A6.
Please leave your message for
Uh,
Andrew Gucker.
please leave your message for
Andrew Gucker.
that's my phone lost in the woods. It's not even ringing at this point. The battery's dead. So for the last few days, I have not had a cell phone, a working cell phone. I pulled this thing out of my box of old phones and I charged it up, and it's got some numbers on it. It has a free Wi-Fi app. I have Wi-Fi here, so I can just use this app to try to make calls and stuff. But my new phone's not arriving till tomorrow, and they said by 9. Apparently, it's in Gaithersburg, Maryland. So, number one, no, I should not have been drunk in the woods, but I had to get where I was going, and that was the quickest way. So, I was drunk in the woods, and I blacked out drunk in the woods. I laid down for a bit in the woods. I walked in with my phone flashlight on, low battery, and I walked out of the woods with no phone. So I I didn't even get to go back and check for it the next day because I was drunk still. I had alcohol poisoning from however many beers I drank. It was just too many. So the next day I was sick all day. I mean, all the way up. I still felt weak, the day after that. But I did go back out to look for the phone, and I could not find it anywhere. And in fact, landscaping crews had come through and done a bunch of shit back there in that particular day. I guess I wasn't there. So there was like huge piles of leaves and shrubbery just tossed into the woods, like all around the edges of the woods. They tossed the stuff in. So if I had dropped it anywhere there, Lord knows. But yeah, I searched through and I couldn't find it. That's a sucky story and a sucky tale. But it leads me to the subject of my conversation today. What are we becoming now that we have cell phones? And what are we losing about ourselves? What are we gaining and what are we losing? The pros and cons of personal cellular devices, computers for everyone, little handheld computers for everyone. And I'll tell you, something I realize about drinking, even if I take a small drink of anything, I always just drink some water. Because I'm not drinking to get drunk. When I drink, like when I drank a bunch of beers, I just drank to party, but I had drank too much. Like, And right now, I drink because the wine makes me feel more introspective. I don't know why. When I drink wine, I just feel like I want to express myself more. And that's one of the things the cell phones allow us to do is express ourselves at an unprecedented level. I mean, can you imagine if everybody in history, if the Romans and the Greeks all had cell phones and we had access to that data, how many people, how many pictures, how many things there would be, you know? I mean, even now we've started that process. So 500 years from now, it may be impossible to sort through all the data, to sort through all of the pictures. I only have maybe 20 things on my Instagram. I realized my Facebook has lots of pictures on it over time. I went back and I looked at some of my old pictures on that I had uploaded on Facebook, and some of them are from way back in years and years ago, man, 10 plus years ago, and I'm like, dang, man, I was kind of late getting on Facebook, and some of the photos I have are really old and degraded too. So I tried to take an old photo off of Facebook and put it on my computer or on my phone and look at it, and it's like choppy and pixelated. Not quite what I uploaded. Maybe it was. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe my brain didn't see it as choppy back then. Maybe back then it was clear to me. But now today I see everything as choppy and pixelated if it's not super HD. And we're really relying on our phones to give us that super expressive experience of life. Seeing sunsets in Jamaica or things that we ain't never seen before. Just in general, a Mayan crystal skull in full HD. Like, oh yes, I get to look dead at it. We can even fly over the earth and go up into the sky and look down onto the planet using Google Earth and see places and things, other places and things. In fact, I was diving into it recently, and I may actually upload a video of this, honestly, because it's worth looking at. The place where people most likely came to this earth. The vessel which brought the mere notion of humanity crashed into this earth. And I think I know exactly where. It's in Russia, by the way. So, unfortunately for everyone, I'm not saying that the most ancient civilizations to populate the surface of the globe were not like African or something. I'm just saying that doesn't that there's another deeper thing. But see, why would I even think that? Because I have a phone, I have a computer, and I look at it all the time, and I come up with these far-fetched theories. We are really so far separated from our grandfathers and grandmothers and our parents even. It's crazy how the generations, they've warped so quickly over time. I mean, we hear tales of civilizations that had the same traditions for thousands of years. And now here in Western society, our traditions change every 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And traditions are changing so quickly, uh, kind of mirroring and in the exact same fashion as technology has changed for us as people. We went from thousands of years of using rocks and fire to suddenly using elements. And I'm not saying, but see, the elementals before, these would be considered alchemists, the people who were looking for a way to turn non-gold into gold, people who are looking for ways to create life, people who are looking for different kinds of sciences. They weren't using rocks and stones, but generally speaking, even when you're talking about a gun, you're just talking about a stone, a refined stone, okay, a piece of metal, but to me that's still a stone, being flung with fire. You're just using fire, and you're throwing metal, using just leverage and metal and fire. We learned how to harness fire. I'm saying gunpowder, I'm just adding that to the fact because we just learned how to harness the fire in a compressed manner to focus the energy, using bullets and barrels. But still, it's just fire throwing a rock. So that's what we're doing. We're throwing rocks at each other. When we're shooting at each other, we're still just throwing rocks. It's just cooler, I guess. You blow somebody's head off with a rock, I guess that's kind of gross, right? You blow somebody's head off with a 45, I guess you're like a gangster. You get a teardrop and shit. Anyway, I'm so far away from the topic of this conversation. Our phones are making us faster than we are. They're teaching us to swim in an environment that doesn't exist without the phone. So we're going to become so snappy and quick, and our attitudes are going to be so heightened, and our egos are going to be so boosted up because as a person now, you don't have to have all the answers to the test. You can just use your calculator and get the answer and then move on, right? You don't have to actually know things. You can just Google them. And it's gotten to a point where we're using memes to justify whole ideas. So somebody will show you a meme, and that's an argument. To whatever your idea was, their meme is your argument. And you have to really wonder, do they know what that meme means? Probably not. Otherwise, they wouldn't be using it. I like memes as much as the next guy, but I use them to laugh, not to fight my battles. So you take that Mr. Meme guy, and you put him down in front of me, and we have an argument with no phones, and it's just logic on logic. A lot of people are going to fall, and they're going to fail. I'm having a lot of problems right now because sometimes I want my phone, and I don't have it. I reach for it, and then I actually just, I grab this thing. I keep it next to me sometimes, even though the only reason I'm going to use this is to try to call my other phone, right? I could leave this thing away from me. I could leave it like somewhere else. Nobody's going to call me on that at all. None of my notifications are going to pop up on there. I don't have Instagram on there. I don't have anything on that phone. As a matter of fact, out of initial shock and desperation, I did try to upload some things onto that phone, and it wouldn't support them. Seriously. Like, I uploaded Facebook, and then it went to this, like, square page that said starting. And that's all it will do. And the same thing with, a mobile game that I play. And the same thing with Instagram, it was just like, file not supported. And then Google Play itself wouldn't even initially start. I had to do a bunch of shit, man, to get that to even happen, just so I could download that app to call my phone. I'm done with it. In the last few days, have not had a phone. And I would like to say, oh yeah, well, I don't need a phone ever again. But once I have my phone back, it's going to be right next to me, like usual. Only I'm going to have to, I have to reprogram the whole thing. Luckily, I use almost all of the things on my phone every day. So I don't have just a phone that I carry around and I don't need for no reason. I use everything on it. So every time I have to use something, I'll just reprogram it and it'll be set forever. So I think, right? Why don't I just start remembering things, right? I mean, I went to get on the bus yesterday to go to Walmart. I needed something, and yeah, I shop at Walmart. Whatever. But I went on the bus, and somehow I was sitting here in the house, and I looked at the clock, and I was like, oh, it's almost time for the bus. And I was surprised at myself for remembering that the time the bus comes. I was surprised for myself. I was surprised that I remembered what time the bus was coming at all, just out of memory. I said, if I don't have my phone reminding me of things all the time, I'll start remembering things easier, right? If I don't have my phone telling me what to think all the time, I'll start thinking clearer. And I went out for a walk, and it was a nice day. And when I saw something interesting, I didn't take a picture of it, and I'm not going to tell anybody. It was just something really interesting and really cool I saw that made me happy. And nobody needs to know, right? I went for a walk. Just telling you that much is letting you into my life. But then to tell you about the interesting, beautiful thing I saw, I guess I'm just learning to withhold more of myself and my feelings and emotions. Then I start realizing that I have way less of them than I thought I did. So if you stop screaming out the things you feel, you start to realize that you don't even feel those things. You're just a pawn in somebody else's game, right? But whose game is it? Do we mind being a pawn in somebody's game? I personally have kind of thought that I wouldn't mind being on the Star Trek Enterprise, right? If you've ever watched Star Trek, if you're into Star Trek, and then one day somebody offered you a spot there on the Enterprise, you're like, fuck yeah, I'm taking that spot. Hell yeah, hell to the motherfucking yeah, right? Alright, but you gotta wear a onesie. You gotta be like us. Your room's gonna be the same as everybody else's room. We have 3 kinds of music. You're welcome to enjoy all 3. You will eat the same things we eat. You will wear the same things we wear. And that's it. And I was thinking to myself, well, as the way they set it out on those things, it's like, okay, maybe I wouldn't mind being part of a uniform society, right? But now, what if they were to say, okay, now we're going to wire every one of our citizens into our net. Put this thing in your brain. I don't know. Would I do it? I mean, so many people are like, no, don't. You should never do anything like that. Never, ever. But you know that I think a lot of you guys who are like really conservatists, not conservatives, conservatists, who really want to keep like the earth the way it is and the people the way they are and the ancient traditions the way they always are, the way they always were, just keep them that way. Don't flip a rock. I'm sorry, I'm the type of person who, if a turtle's on its back in the wild, I'm going to flip that turtle over. I'm going to. All right? Let me ask you this. If you were fucking on your back in the wild and a fucking monkey came running over and the monkey was about to flip you over and help you, and then some other monkey ran up and said, "Don't help it." You would be like, number one, you'd be shocked to see a monkey, like the turtle is shocked to see a human. And then you would be like, "Oh, you're going to help me? Cool." "What? You're not going to help me?" "Nope, we're going to let nature take care of you, buddy." Fuck you. I interact with nature. I interfere. You know, I've taken down trees and built a little fort. I've burned wood. I've put lines of smoke in the air. I love nature, but I also love humanity, and I love the idea of science. And sci-fi has always been deep in me. And I guess my greatest fear with phones becoming so much a part of us, my greatest fear is the Borg. So we're going back to Star Trek again, right? Oh my god. And I'm not even a Trekkie, dude. I swear to God, like I could not sit down with you and do Star Trek lore. I don't know all that shit, but I do know the Borg. And it was just like a whole group of robots who were all the same and interlinked in as one mind. A bunch of beings, cyborgs, half human, half machine, all interlinked as one mind, all thinking the same. And almost used up of its resources, out there plundering other resources, taking things, destroying things. That's what we don't want, right? But what if humanity could become, uh, millions of individual beings of peace, light, and inspiration, formed together with the AI that we've created? That's another end of the singularity. See, it doesn't have to just be evil. We could turn good because of combining with the machines, combining with actual intelligence. Because I would say our intelligence is pretty artificial, you know, unless the reason that we don't think as quickly and understand as much as a computer is because we are meant to try to understand what a computer can't understand. So we we dissect every bit of information we get all the way down to a spiritual level. Whereas computers, they just decode the numbers, break them into pieces, and put them back together, and it's very easy and quick. Computers created by us couldn't have the answers you know, that we don't have. The fact is, any number a computer can come up with, humans could come up with too. It might just take us a way longer time. But it's still just number crunching and logics. When you're talking about spirituality, though, I think that that's why humans think the way they do and don't think as quickly and sharply as they usually as like a computer or any other fully formulated system would operate. We don't operate that way. We're so flawed, it's ridiculous. Like, honestly, it's almost like seeing a big giant machine where just smoke and fires are pouring out in all directions, but it's still working. Like, that's like what we're like. The machines that are misfiring every second, but somehow miraculously just continuously going on. Well, I tell you what, cell phones are either making us like that, or they're going to be the thing that protects us as we turn like that. Because I think we're going to get dumber and dumber and dumber. And the amount of people who are qualified to work in places like CERN and the STEM fields are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and pretty soon it's going to be a very small. It's going to be a very high commodity. I think a very sought after commodity as far as smart people are concerned. Right now, I think there's tons and tons of them, but not as many as there would have been, respectively, if there was as many of us as there are 100 million years ago. Go ahead and run that through your brain and try to figure it out, and then tell me what I'm talking about, because I don't quite know. Now, when somebody loses their cell phone, a lot of things happen to them that they're not biologically prepared for. Now, there really wasn't an equivalent to go by back in the day. I guess maybe if if a guy lost his shotgun, that might like really affect his whole life until he can get a new shotgun. But people remembered numbers back then. They knew addresses, and or they had a little book that they wrote it down in, but they keep that at home because that's where their phone is. And I mean, if they were out walking around and they needed the number at a payphone and they took it out and left it at the payphone, well, the chances of getting that phone book back is pretty good because somebody might find that phone book and call a number in it and help you. Whereas with our cell phones, it's actually a little bit easier, I guess, in a way, to re-get your cell phone unless you lose it somewhere and nobody finds it. If somebody finds your cell phone, it's actually pretty easy to get it back. I've gotten a few of them back because somebody answered the phone. One of them was a guy actually found my phone, charged the phone, and then answered it when somebody called it. And then that person called me and said, "Hey, this guy has your phone. Here's his number," and I got my phone back. That probably won't happen this time. It would take me a really extensive search, to find it through a bunch of woods. And, well, I'm just not sure if I think it's worth that much. But let's talk about what's happened to me physically and mentally and emotionally for not having a phone for 3 days now. I wake up looking for my phone. First, I do. I wake up and I go like this because it's on my top of my bedboard. There's a little flat part there, and I put my phone there. And I just reach up and I grab for it to check the time. When I feel this little thing sitting there, I get so mad. And that's not good for you, right? Getting angry first thing in the morning, feeling like that desperation of I've lost something. Because what I really want to do is I want to check my bank account, make sure no weird charges have come out. I want to check and make sure if I've gotten any messages from any people that want to hook up with me, contact me, do anything, maybe with the show. Who knows? I feel like I have to be connected, right? I'm not that lone wolf I used to be. And to be honest, I never really was a completely lone wolf. I always had somebody with me, a little pack, you know. This is one of the first times where I really struck out completely on my own. And I find it to be, awkward. It's got its advantages and its disadvantages. But my stomach tightens up a little bit, right? One thing I am lacking is in my day, and it's not that I'm lacking it, it's that I notice that I don't have it, is that affirmation of me taking a few pictures of like my walk and people liking it from like different places, in the world. Like it's nice when all of a sudden I open my phone up and it's like, oh, 5 people liked your photo and 4 people are now following you and this and that. It's like, that feels good, right? And you do it again the next day and it feels good again. And then you do it again the next day and it feels good again. And every day, to get that little positive boost, you do that. You share something about yourself and people affirm positively. So you get used to that. You get a chemical reaction. If you're feeling good, that means that you have received chemicals from your brain. It means that something happened that caused you to biologically react. Your phone causes you to biologically react. People can become depressed to the point of sickness because of their phone. And that's having it. People like that, I would say, probably need to not have a phone. You know? Go back to a flip phone or something. But I noticed on the second day that I was having stomach pain. And I couldn't really figure out exactly why it was. And I reached up for my phone again, and I was just sitting there and I was watching a show. And I reached over for my phone and it wasn't there because my phone is not here, it's lost. I wanted to see how much I could spend on a painting. I want a picture. I want to put a picture up in my house. And how much can I spend on that? Well, I don't know because I got to go over to my computer and log on to Wells Fargo. I can find out. I can definitely find everything out. I didn't lose my money card. I didn't lose my wallet. I didn't lose my keys. I just lost my phone. I lost my instant access. So instant gratification also comes with a sense of pleasure. And with a sense of pleasure comes a chemical reaction, which means that you're biologically reacting. Your body is physically reacting to what's happening in your phone life. Is it possible that if all of a sudden all the phones in the world just shut off, all servers shut down, and all technology just came to a halt, that we would break down? How long would it take for us to heal? There's no doubt in my mind that many, many, many people would have to face a very, very harsh reality. The harshest reality of life, which is you are not as loved as you think you are. And especially not by the people that you think you are. In fact, there is probably somebody who does not know you who is capable of loving you more than some of the people that know you. All of that is coming through your phone all the time, at all times of the day or night, unless you decide with your own will, I'm going to turn my phone off for the night and go to sleep and wake up in the morning and check it, right? It's on. Unless you decide to turn it off, it's on. And it's constantly happening. And it's a part of your mentality too. You see something, you pick up your phone. It's almost like your phone has programmed you to do that. Your phone has a job to do, and it can't do it unless it makes you do it. It's kind of weird. Not to mention, I mean, if an AI is coming, it will know every single thing about all of us. So we're constantly feeding information in. It's not only constantly giving us biological feelings, and it's not constantly affecting us only. We're also constantly feeding it and growing it by giving it more and more information. You know, I mean, just based on my own Instagram account, uh, Google now knows something about me that it didn't know before. I like wild mushrooms. right? Well, I never, ever got any kind of suggestions to join any wild mushroom groups, or I never ever got shown photos of wild mushrooms to draw me into a site. But now that's what's happening because I've posted a few pictures of wild mushrooms and I've hashtagged it, mushrooms, little worlds of mushrooms. Yay, these are cute mushrooms. Now the internet is offering me things via mushroom and via mushroom enticement. So yeah, come to Wish, and get this little potted mushroom. Fuck you. Not gonna do it. And by the way, how does a company like Wish, who is legitimately a rip-off place and a cover-up for the nation's new Silk Road, a drug-dealing madhouse, how is that company like the top thing that pops up on social media sites? Aren't social media sites like closely tied in with like, Google and stuff? Don't they all talk about having like high standards and stuff? Like, why would they all promote Wish? Why show me a picture of a little tube that looks like a vacuum that you can use to snort cocaine? Oh, it looks like a little vacuum cleaner, huh? Like the one your mom used to use. Yeah, use that to snort your cocaine. Like, oh, look, it's a little razor, but it's shaped like a credit card. Ha ha ha, look, you can use that to cut your cocaine. Oh, not interested in drug paraphernalia? Here's a bag of meth. Like, what the hell? On Wish? Yeah, buy this bag of meth on Wish. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's the kind of thing that makes me feel awkward. Like, if AI is going to learn how to be, it's got to learn from somebody with some good moral character. Otherwise, it's going to be filling us all full of heroin and putting us in, Matrix style chambers and just eating our souls for all eternity. As opposed to putting itself in a small chamber accessible to us to give us enhancement for all eternity. Right? Guys, don't lose your phones.